Hi, this is Brad. Welcome to atscheduler.com. Right now we're going to show you how to set up your facility if you've just joined here. I'm going to be using some existing data from a sample facility, but we'll walk through all the steps. As you start with your account, it's going to come up with nothing. It's going to say no pay period selected. The first thing you want to do is go into facilities. It's going to have a sample facility or a default facility. You're just going to change the name there, or you're going to set up a new facility. You can actually add facilities. You can be running multiple. If you're working multiple areas or you are doing staffing for multiple areas, you can set those up here. It doesn't really need to be a different facility. It just sets up a different set of data for each one. So you can set your name here. And this is the current one we're working on. You have more, and then you can switch between them here. The next part, the crucial part, is going to calendar setup, and you're going to set up your bid year. The bid year isn't your calendar year, because everybody's going to start a little bit differently, just based upon if your negotiations went long or they went normally. For us, we're going to start on pay period 3 in 2026. So the bid year is the year that has all the same rules. So 2026 is going to start pay period 3 of 2026. These other ones are in the 2025 bid year, but even though it crosses into 2026. Once you've got a bid year set up, you're going to set up your pay periods. Pay period start dates are listed here for the next couple years, so it makes it pretty easy to start that. As soon as you've got one pay period entered, you can just hit generate next pay period and it will automatically populate starting on the next date. So, and then advance one on the pay period. So it's pretty easy to add another pay period here. You may want to generate them all at once, or you may want to take some time and just do a couple at a time. It's up to you. Once you've got your pay periods set up, we're going to go into the next part is crew. You're going to set up the crews. These are generally groups of people who share the same RDOs or the same days off. You can set up whatever name you want and then the order that you want them to display on the schedule. So I've set them up generally pretty generic. The Sunday, Monday crew, these are naming their days off. You don't set up what the crews do here. You're setting up the different crew names. Next, we're going to go into shift definitions. These are all the different shifts that are allowed to be worked throughout the week. So these are usually going to be set in your MOU with your facility between NATCA and management. You're going to give the shift a name. You're going to show the start time, and the end time will automatically be populated after you designate how long the duration of the shift is. You can set whether the shift is categorized as a day, swing, or mid, and the equitability count is showing what shift this is a variant of. For our facility, most of the week, the mid shift starts at 11 o'clock, the 2300 mid, but on twice a week or twice a pay period, it's going to start at midnight and it's going to be a 7-hour shift. So that's the 0000S for 7 for us for our facility. So once you set that up, you can also set this up as a TMU shift, and then this TMU is kind of considered separately here. All of these shifts are set up, and then you kind of do what variants are here. So the 7-hour 7 o'clock shift is a variant of the 7 o'clock 8-hour shift. So they'll all show together, and the count will be the same for them. And the equitability count is going to be the same. So if an employee works the 7 o'clock shift or the 7 o'clock 7-hour shift, I know that's kind of confusing there, but then it will track as the same shift that was worked for the equity status here. Then we're going to go into shift requirements. Now this is what management's going to require you to staff each week and on each day. So you're going to go through each day. We're going to show each shift. You're going to select from the shift. So you have to have the shift set up first. You're going to select what requirements there are or what shifts can be worked and how many people are going to work that. So for Sunday on day 1, that's going to be the midnight mid shift with a 7-hour duration there, and we want 2 people on that. We're going to have 3 people either on the 6 or the 7-hour 6 a.m. shift. 4 people either working the 6 or 6, I'm sorry, the 6:30 or 6:37 hour. Some of these you can either work the 7 or the 8, a 9-hour 8 shift, a 7-hour 7 shift, and management doesn't really care as long as there's 3 people staffing at least one of those. As you go down, there's different options here, and you can really set it up however you want. The overstaffing priority here, it's for the automated generator, and it's not perfect, but this will allow you to determine for the generator where overstaffing should be set. We don't have overstaffing turned on generally. We want you to make that decision there. After you set up a day, most of the time, the weekdays are going to be the same or pretty similar. You can copy from a different day over so you don't have to set them up for every day. For us, our Sundays and our Saturdays are different, and then every day in the middle of the week are the same, so pretty easy to do that, to copy that over once you've got one day set up. All right, next one is the bid lines. You're going to go in it, and for each crew, you're going to set up different bid lines that they're able to work. As we set up the bid line, this one is the Sunday, Monday, mid every week line. It's under the Sunday, Monday crew. We want this bid line showing at the top in the schedule view. And this has a copy week 1 to week 2 after you've got the setup. If it's the same both weeks, you can copy it over, or you can copy it over and then change things if the weeks are a little bit different. So for this employee, we actually, and you have a color picker here, you can show what color that row is going to show as. The RDOs are established here, and then what shifts that employee is able to work or able to be scheduled on each day. So for our mid every week, we're using the 8-9-8-7-8 hour schedule for this one. So on the first day, this employee is working 8-hour shifts. The second day, they're able to work any of these 9-hour shifts. The third day, they can work day shifts here and maybe the noon. And then the 6 o'clock 7-hour shift is the only shift they're able to work on Friday. And then the mid is what they're going to be scheduled every week. And all these can be overridden in the schedule, but this is what it's going to default as. So that's for the mid every week. For different shifts, you can have different ones. So this one is working the 8-9-8-7-8 for the week where they work their mid. For the next week, they're going to work the 8-9-8-8-7. So their last day is going to be a 7-hour shift. So then it's going to show all the shifts that are available, and you just select which ones they could be scheduled for on each of those days. And that will come into play later. So once you've got each day set up here, we're going to go through and actually you do that, and then you go through the employees and then you can set the employees and then have them select their bid lines there. The OT blackout dates are the every third week where they're not able to be scheduled overtime, and instead of showing RDO on the schedule, it's going to show MOU because they're MOU blackout date. Now, you can see the entire year set up through here, but in reality, you don't really want to do that. So we're just going to do set up the first 3 weeks or so, what the pattern is, and then you're going to do copy pattern. That's going to copy those first 3 weeks over throughout the rest of the schedule. Anyone in the employee list who has waived the MOU is going to be shown on this page in green, and they're going to have white X's showing that they're waiving those dates. They're still in there if they choose later on in the year to not waive those dates, but they will be eligible for overtime. It'll just show us an RDO if that's their selection here. And that goes throughout the whole year there, so you can go all the way through the end of the year. All right, overtime preferences, I don't have any set up here, but in this option, we might be able to make the overtime generator better. Right now, it's a little finicky, so But this allows you to record any day shift, any swing shift, or what shift an individual would like for their overtime on their RDOs. So maybe DeMarcus on Sunday wants a 7 o'clock shift, but on Monday he really wants a swing. Let's say he really wants the latest shift, and then if he can't get that, he wants the swing. So that will show their priority there. And if you're using the overtime calculator here, then we're going to go in and we're going to set up the previous overtime hours for our facility. We copy these from Web Scheduler every week. And then it's going to also show for that pay period how many hours that person is assigned, and then the total, counting Web Scheduler and overtime this pay period, showing you a total. That's going to show up on the schedule in the columns at the end as well, so you can see who the yes overtime list is and how many overtime hours they have, so you know how to prioritize that scheduling. The equity status allows you to see the shifts that individuals in each crew have worked compared to each other. On workday 1, we've only got a couple pay periods set up here, so the only 3 shifts that any of these people in this crew have worked on day 1 is the 15, the 14:30, and the 14. And DeMarcus worked a total of 1 of the 1,500 shifts, but TJ worked 3 of them. And so he had 75% of the time that he was eligible to work that shift, he worked it. And DeMarcus, 33% of the time he worked it. So you can kind of see the hard count, but the percentage time also takes into account leave or parental leave, or if someone was just joined the facility, they joined the facility halfway through the year, and they haven't worked, maybe they've worked 1 out of 2, and it's only going to show them working 1, but they only had an opportunity to work that shift twice, and so it's going to show 50%. So you can kind of judge how you guys want to work equitability at your facility, but these calculators let you compare those side by side for each crew. And then there's a bunch of options here. You can make the schedule smaller. You can only show the operating initials. There's a bunch of different things. Some of these work really well. Some of them are with the generator, and just kind of see how it works for your facility. As you set up different criteria for your facility, it's going to work differently. So maybe it works really well for your facility, but maybe that generator doesn't or isn't able to figure out in your facility how to break the ties or how to make those decisions best based upon your shifts, your shift requirements, the bid lines, leave, all those things. So a couple other options you can schedule people for training shifts, and then instead of showing the T for training, it's going to allow you to give them an exact training shift that you're going to assign them. It's not going to count to crew staffing requirements. And then a bunch of different options here for trainees. And you can also turn off TMU if you're not using TMU, or turn off the overtime columns, just a bunch of different things in here. And we might add some more in here as people have more requests. So a lot of things in the options to play with. In the data management here, you can back up your data to your computer just to make sure things are backed up here. And some options here. The save function here to save to the server generally works, but sometimes it's a little bit slow. So if you change something, move off the page really quick, it might not have saved completely, and it might give you an error and say, do you want to use the server data or your local data? And this kind of forces it to push data or pull it from the server. You probably won't need to use that. But if you've got someone else at the facility who's built everything out and they want to send you all of the data for your facility here, they can save it, they can email it to you, and you use that backup file to generate into your profile here. I would recommend if you have multiple people doing the scheduling, just use one email and password and share that between you. We don't have set up for multiple users for the same facility. It creates some weird things with saving to the server, so that's not something we've incorporated at this time. There is a page with a bunch of how-to stuff here, and it runs through a lot of these options and tells you what things are. So if you really want to dig deep into this and see why things are working and what's going on, then you can take a look at that. Let's go to the scheduler. Here we go. So we have local data. Well, which version do you want to keep? Let's just use the local data. So we're going to go back to pay period 3 here. And on the schedule view, we're seeing all of the employees, their operating initials, the previous day's shifts, but because this is the first pay period that we've set up, there is no previous shift here. Otherwise, it would show you pay period 2 from 2025 if you had it on here. But it will show you the next one and what's generated out there. It's going to show you RDOs. Now you can move them off of the RDO onto any shift you want for an overtime, and then it's going to show green for an overtime shift, and it's going to count it down here and the overtime assigned. You can move them back off onto an RDO. You can manually change things. If somebody wants to waive their blackout dates, you can change them from the MOU to the RDO just for a certain week. And trainees are auto-populated with the green T. For our facility, we don't give them a shift, but you can enable that option. You can also select leave. There's a bunch of different leave types. You can select from any of these, and really they all kind of work the same, except MOU doesn't allow overtime to be manually assigned, but obviously that's not going to work in the middle of the week here. And just other for anything else here. So that's going to show people unavailable for working those days. For each day, if you click on the shift to assign the shift, it's going to show you the bid line shifts that they're allowed to work. Now, obviously, sometimes that's not going to work out that way. So we've got 2 individuals here who are working the mid. TJ's working the mid this first week and not this second week. But if this Bismo is on leave, then we're going to have to change this one to a mid. So you can manually change it to any other shift you want. You just have to be aware of what's going to happen here, because this is an 8 and this is a 7. If I move this back to an 8, just got to make sure that you move this to the compliant 7-hour shift that the mid shift needs to be working. Or you might have different settings for your facilities, but you can manually change whatever you want, but that bid line will show you what they're supposed to be working on that day. So 9-hour shifts here for this individual, 8-hour shifts on the next day, and which shifts they're supposed to be working or they could be working on those days. You can set up training ending. So for Hingle here, we set up training to be ending on the 17th. And so it automatically populated the training shifts up until that point and then allowed them to be considered for staffing after that. Our flow lines, the TMU lines, have F in there. We actually have one employee who is working a temporary flow 180-day detail. So you can go through and set up the flow shifts for employees who are not necessarily considered flow. They can still work those flow shifts if you have somebody on a detail, and it will count towards the totals for the flow assignments. All right, so down here, the summary rows here are going to show you the overtime that's required based upon how many individuals are able to be scheduled a shift on this day and what the total requirement numbers are. So we're looking for 10 on the day, 10 on the swing, 2 on the mid. We don't have enough, so it's going to say you need to assign 2 people to overtime that day. Now we have one shift here that it didn't assign just for whatever reason, because it was overstaffing. So it didn't give us an assignment because if we assign everybody on the 7 here, then when we assign these shifts, it's going to overstaff 1. or it's going to be a non-compliant shift. So because of the settings and just what we have set up here, it caused a conflict, and it's going to let you make that decision here. Then it's going to show every line for that day of requirements. So it's going to show for our mid shifts here, it's going to show 2 required. If you hover over, it's going to show the total required number. So that's helpful on the understaffed or overstaffed shifts here. Required 4, and we've only got 3. It's going to show in red. Overstaffing is going to show in green. And some of these are going to be blacked out because we only want the 7 or 7-hour 7 is a requirement to be staffed by itself here on, what is this, Saturday here. So we need 1 of those on Saturday, but on every other day, it can be a 7 and 8 or the 7 or 9-hour variants of those. And so those are available on this day, and it's not going to count it on Saturday, but it is going to show these different hours here. And then all these are going to calculate down, and it's going to show you whether each shift is understaffed, staffed correctly, or overstaffed here. All right. So let's talk about the snapshot. So what's going to happen every time you generate the schedule, it's going to pull the data from the employee about what RDOs they're working, what bid line, what their overtime status, and all those things are, and it's going to save it. And it's going to create a snapshot, and whether you change those things or not in the employee list or in other sections, it's going to keep the same data here. So if you've got stuff set up previously and somebody ends up changing their bid line or changing their RDOs and moving to a different crew, it's going to keep them here. It's not going to move them. But if something happens and you need to, and you've already set up the pay periods and then someone changes and you want to refresh it, you want to pull the new information, you can pull all the new information. It's going to show you individuals who may have changed. It's going to show you the change here. And you can select just them. Also, if you change the whole bid year shift requirements or shift definitions and you want those new ones to populate on this schedule, then you can select that. You can select all those. You can refresh that, and it's going to refresh all that data. Clearing the schedule, you have options. You can clear just the generated shifts from the Generate Schedule engine. You can clear all shifts that are actual shifts and not leave. You can clear just the leave and others. It's going to keep your RDOs, the training shifts, and your actual shifts that you're working, but it's going to remove all the leave and everything. You can clear the training, or you can just set everything here to blank. And if we do this, and it sets everything here to blank, and we lose all the RDOs and everything like that, we're going to go here to Generate Schedule, and the initialization is going to run and check and make sure, see if there's anything missing here. So we can select this and just run this first step, and it's going to show all the RDOs and MOUs and everything like that that we just cleared out. It's also going to populate anybody who has only one possible shift on that day. So mid shifts and the mandatory one shift that they can work before that will set up. Now this this individual here is still in training, but they bid the mid every week line. So we're missing a mid line here. So we can see that down here. We've got in the mids, we've only got 1 out of 2 for these 2 days. So we're going to come in and we're going to manually set these to the 6S here. So a little bit of review, just go through, check and make sure it's doing what it's supposed to. Then we can go through and you can have it run overtime because here we don't have any leave, so it's not going to assume that there's any overtime needed. You can go day by day here. Just run one step. It's going to show you, give you a log of everything that's happening, all the calculations it's making. You can look through that, and it's going to tell you why it's making these decisions. If you find a bug, copy this whole thing over, tell me what's going on, send it to me, and probably send me a downloaded file of your database, and we'll see if we can figure out what's going on, if we can fix it. But it ran through and it set up these days here. It left a couple undone because it wasn't really sure what it wanted to do, because we have more people for these shifts than are needed. So there's going to be some overstaffing. So it's staffed the whole morning, it's staffed the evening, but we're a little short. We need 2 more on the swing shift. It means moving some people over into a later shift. It couldn't do that for these individuals who could work a swing, but it didn't because on the next shift they're too early. Anyway, a lot of different things to consider here, but that's how this kind of works. So and then you can run through the entire. You can run one day at a time if you want, fix these little things one day at a time. You can select a certain day just to run one at a time, or you can just run the entire thing. Just run remaining, and it's going to run through. It's going to do everything it can to try to give you the obvious shifts to assign based upon your data and what you've set up, and if there's conflicts or if there's issues. Because ours is fairly complex, it's going to leave some judgment calls, and you might have to swap some things around and make some changes here so that things all work out for you. Or you decide which shifts to overstaff. That's for you to do there. So that's a pretty quick rundown. Once you're done with this, you can take a screenshot of it. If your facility is not huge, you can export to a CSV, which you can import then into Google Sheets or into Excel. If you want to have it in a different spreadsheet, you can also export to a PDF, and it should give you a printable or savable PDF that copies all this information, and you can email that to your management counterpart to enter in WebSketch, or you can just enter it yourself, however you guys have it set up. If you have any questions, my email's on here. Send me an email and let me know if you find any bugs or if you have any questions or if there's things that you want us to look at as a feature request. Again, this is free. I don't have all the time in the world, but I'm willing to take a look and see if there's something that we can fix for you. And if we can help out, we will. So that's AT Scheduler. Hopefully it helps your facility. If it does, great. If not, don't worry about it. Have a great day. Bye.